I'll do my intro and then I'll introduce you because this
Okay.
is the first episode, technically.
Yeah. The real.
So,
Yeah, for real.
hi, welcome to the Promising Future podcast. My name's Lynn. If you're listening, I'm under the assumption that you have an idea of who I am. I run the Sephiroth Tits account on Instagram and have for the past 5 years or so. I run the account Drakengardlikes tweets on Twitter. And this is my co-host and dear friend, Gwen. Gwen, tell
Hi.
us a little bit about yourself.
Um, I'm around.
Yeah, at least you're not square. You're around.
Yeah, I'm pretty. I'm not square. I'm pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I'd be inclined to agree with them. You know what's not cool?
What's that?
Uh, being a anonymous quote unquote leaker and pretending to be an Asian woman when you're presumably a white guy and using broken English.
Oh God, is it that bad?
It's that bad, yeah. This
Oh
person's
no.
using if you look at I should clarify who Midori is. Midori is a leaker, pretty prominent leaker, closely associated with Atlas, and there were a lot of um rumors about who she is. She, quote unquote, is. It turned out to be a guy. Um and Yeah, they would just post leaks about Atlas and Sega at first, and then it expanded into other studios. Never going as far as Nintendo, though. Nintendo was kind of unmarked territory for them. And this happened today. There was somebody who caught feelings for Midori, and as a result, I think this is what happened. They caught feelings for them and then did some research into who they really were, and they turned out to be this Megaten leaker called Mystic Distance, who disappeared. Not leaker, they were a translator from a few years ago. Uh, and this is the same person as Midori, and they disappeared from the community, came back, and pretended to be an Asian woman. So, yeah, so there's this whole thread. Um,
Let's pull it
yeah,
up. Yeah.
so it's pulling up. I'm pulling up this bit of information. I don't fully understand this.
Yeah, I don't like at
Uh,
all.
this is
Uh,
kind of because I feel like just not being involved with. I don't like Persona, and I feel like that gap
yeah, I don't really
is
care.
kind of causing some sort of rift here.
Right. Like maybe if either of us were more involved, with those games,
Yeah.
maybe we'd understand.
My issue with Persona is I think they're a deeply conservative series of games. At least 4 and 5 are. I really like how
Yeah.
4 is like, actually, you shouldn't be yourself, and then Chie becomes a cop.
That's so awesome.
It's so awesome that they
That's
do that.
so funny.
And then with what's her name?
Yeah.
Naoto, they have the whole, oh, is she trans mask thing, and it's so fucking stupid.
It's really
It's
bad.
like they bungled this. Yeah. Nothing but I haven't played Persona 1 and 2. I've tried the rest. Played a good bit of Persona 4 and just it's like this sucks. But
Yeah, it's not great.
uh but yeah, so from what I can gather, they're this person, Mystic Distance, who disappears from the Megaten community. Then they come back anonymously as this person, Midori. And so then Midori confirms it and is like, you have that pulled up, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, the rumors about my identity that have started to spread and will continue to spread recently are correct information. Hey, what the fuck are you doing? I think the most egregious part of this is that he was pretending to be an Asian woman.
Yeah, that's like the most insane part of this to me. Like, I don't really know about all the leaking shit. Like, I don't really know or care about any of that. it's it's mostly the yeah, the pretending to be an Asian woman part that is completely
Like,
insane.
what compels you to do that? Were
I
you
do you
were you familiar with the case of Lulu? I think that was their name. It was
vaguely.
another Twitter person who pretended to be a girl,
Yeah.
and they got a bunch of like they got a big industry following,
Yeah, I remember.
and then they just disappeared because it turned out they were faking their whole identity and they were also incredibly abusive. And a similar thing seems to be happening with Midori because I found this, rather, my friend sent me a thread uh,
Uh-huh.
from Midori's ex girlfriend. No, wait, let me check. Is this? No, not their ex girlfriend, their ex boyfriend. And it, like this guy was Midori's virtual therapist or something like that, and he caught feelings for him.
Th- this is
It's
insane.
just such a this is something that happened years ago apparently, but it's really weird. Um,
It's really
yeah,
crazy.
it. I think it makes what makes it especially crazy is that Midori is somebody who has been proven to have provided correct information. They are a what's the word? They are a well-renowned leaker because their information tends to be accurate. Yeah,
Really.
it's like this person is just
Wow.
a guy and has been lying about being an Asian woman.
This is
Yeah.
crazy. Do you know do you know almost a little sort of a similar story about I believe is current editor in chief of Marvel Comics,
What?
CB Cebulski, pretended to be an Asian man, and wrote comics under the pseudonym Akira Yamamoka, I think.
Akira Yamamoka, not like Akira Yamaoka.
Or wait, I can't remember what it was. I just said someone else's name.
Yeah, Akira Yamaoka's
I'm
the
like
Silent Hill composer.
the Silent Hill
Yeah.
guy. What is his name? It's Akira
Okay.
Yoshida. That's it. Akira Yoshida, yeah, pretended to be an Asian man named Akira Yoshida and wrote a bunch of comics. And then it came out. Everyone was like, "Oh wait, this is white guy CB Cebulski writing these." And then they made him. They put him in
What the
charge.
fuck? How did that even happen? Like, what occurred here?
Yeah, I don't know, but it's crazy.
And the thing with Lulubu, the thing with Midori, the thing with CB Cebulski is that they all pretended to be Asian. What is the draw of pretending to be
Yeah,
Asian?
well, why do
Why
this?
pretend to be Asian in particular? I mean, I think there's kind of an obvious answer, and that has to do with the fact that, it's
Well, yeah,
fetishizing Asian people.
of course.
Like, why does why does this keep happening?
Yeah, it's it's so funny.
Like, what the fuck? Um, so so Midori is stepping down, I guess. They're not gonna be leaking any more information. Uh, which is good because, obvious reasons. And then there are threads coming out that are like, oh, this person is incredibly dangerous, and there's a reason they disappeared from the Megatent community. And I've yet to read
Oh my
those,
god.
but really
Yeah.
not shocking. The CB Cebulski thing is so fucking funny to me.
Yeah, it is really
How did
funny.
you find out about that?
I mean, I read
Okay.
X-Men, so I'm like somewhat plugged in to like comics. Uh so I just like I don't know, I picked it up somewhere. I don't remember a couple years back.
Makes sense.
But yeah, it's really funny. You can still like find the comics that he wrote under that pseudonym.
Pseudonyms, Akira
Uh,
Yoshida, yeah. So I looked
yeah.
up his Wikipedia page and it says he's of
Uh
Polish
huh.
descent, and since he was 20 years old, C.B. Cebulski has lived on and on in Japan where members of his family reside. So this guy's just Kazuhira Miller.
Yeah, literally. Marvel's own cos. Marvel's own cos. That's awesome.
I'm just getting an image of Kaz Miller in my head as a comic book writer. Uh,
Yeah.
it's like how there's the whole bit in Metal Gear Solid 5 where he starts like a hamburger chain. I
Oh
don't know if you
yeah.
ever listened to the Metal Gear Solid 5 cassette tapes, but there's a whole thing where he makes
Yeah, that one.
hamburgers.
It's really funny.
It's like, and then with Peace Walker, I don't think it's in the, I guess, remastered version of the game, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure MSF invents Doritos and Mountain Dew.
Oh my god.
They are responsible for gaming as we know it. And
That.
there's like a bunch of tie-in merchandise for Peace Walker that has Mountain Dew and Doritos.
That's so funny.
Um,
Is that like how in Death Stranding where they had the Monster
yeah,
Energy everywhere and then just took it out of the game?
I Death Stranding has so much funny tie-in merchandising. Fuck, there's the one. Do you know about the ride with Norman Reedus cycle?
Oh
So I don't
yes.
remember how you get it, but and I'm pretty sure it is a better motorcycle or whatever it's called, quadricycle. I'm pretty sure it is one of the better ones in the game. It is the ride with Norman Reedus cycle. And
That's so funny.
Sam Bridges will say, "Wow, just like I'm on ride,
Mm-hmm.
Norman Reedus."
That's so funny because he is Norman
Right.
Reedus.
And then sometimes you'll get in the shower and it'll have an ad, ride with Norman Reedus.
God.
A really funny thing about Death Stranding is the fact that it is very aware that the people
Yeah.
acting in the game are real people.
Right.
Um, you collect those data chips and it'll give you like a Drive by Nicholas Winding Refn, and it'll tell you about the movie Drive and the driver.
Oh my god.
And I remember specifically the Godzilla one where it's like this is one of Guillermo del Toro's favorite movies. So you're meaning to say that Guillermo del Toro existed in this universe. Presumably the universe of Death Stranding was just like Earth up until a certain point,
Yeah.
and they made a man out of cadavers in Guillermo del Toro's image. He just happens to look like him.
That's that's awesome. I need to play that
You
game.
you haven't played it?
No, I played. Well, I played like an hour of
It's
it, like a while
I
back.
love Death Stranding. It is
I have it.
insane. One of the funnier things in the game is that it gives you lethal weapons. So there are two
Right.
categories of weapon in the game. There's non-lethal and there's lethal. And one of the main plot points is that dead bodies will pretty much turn into bombs. The first mission of the game
Right.
is you bringing your dead mother's body up a mountain to burn it, to cremate it.
Oh yeah. Okay, I do
Yeah,
remember that.
so it gives you the option to kill people. But if you do, you have to dispose of their bodies, so it's totally useless.
Oh my
And it's like,
god.
why did they put this in the game when you can just use non-lethal weapons? There are non-lethal equivalents of all the rifles and pistols in this game.
That's so funny. You'd expect there to be like a trade
Right.
off, like, but no, it's just
It's just
better
better.
to not kill
There's
them.
no point in killing people in Death Stranding. I mean, it thematically ties in with the game. The whole point is that you are
Of course,
helping
yeah,
people, but like, why add it in the first place?
yeah, that's really funny.
There's a lot of weird stuff in Death Stranding. Metal Gear in general is no stranger
Yeah,
to weird crossovers.
yeah,
Uh,
it's true.
um, what's his name? Gotta. So, did you know that Shinya Tsukamoto, the director of Tetsuo the Iron Man, was meant to be in Metal Gear Solid 2, but isn't because of scheduling conflicts?
No, I did not know that.
And he's in MGS4.
Right, he is in
Yeah.
MGS4.
So, and it's just like, what were they thinking? I mean, like, how did that happen? Kojima, what are you cooking?
He's always up to some shit. Did you see? Did you see him post the other day where he was like, Metal Gear Solid 4 is like 16 years old or like whatever the
Yeah.
hell, and then he just quote tweeted it with a picture of the PS3. I was like, he's so
I
awesome.
was looking through my Instagram story archives the other day, and the only thing that has remained consistent for the past 4 years is that I've reposted photos from Hideo Kojima's Instagram, and he has not changed a lick. He is always posting
That's so
random
funny.
shit and expecting people to understand it. And given Kojima, people are always, getting into conspiracies over what this could mean. And no, he's just posting a copy of
Right.
My Bloody Valentine by Loveless. Wait, fuck.
Yeah, he just likes it.
I
He just likes it.
meant to say Loveless by My Bloody Valentine, but I didn't say that. I think it's really especially funny that he's into Slow Dive.
Yeah, which hey,
Like, hey, and there are pictures of him with members of the band. I think he's met Rachel
yeah,
Goswell.
that's so funny.
Like they have,
He's met
he
everybody.
has. I was just thinking about how Harmony Korine is probably the only person to have met both Hideo Kojima and David Berman.
Yeah, yeah, probably.
There's no way that
That's
anybody else
no one else in the
has
world
met
has
both
met
those
both of
people.
them.
I mean, you've seen the video of Karine with Gaspar Noé, and they randomly run into David Berman. Yeah.
Yes.
Um, weird video, but it's just like, huh, and I'm wondering, how did he garner this reputation in the first place? Because I was explaining,
Right.
kind of how to get into Metal Gear, with somebody, and I love those games to pieces, but how how do I put it? Bizarre they are. I feel like the reputation that Metal Gear Solid has doesn't ever cue you into how weird they get.
Yeah, like people say they're weird, but like they're not weird in the way you expect them to
Right.
be, if that makes sense. Like, like in like the ways that you think like it's incredibly strange, but in the ways that you think, like however you think it is, if you haven't played it, you're probably
I
wrong.
remember playing Smash Bros. Brawl when I was younger, and I looked up a vague synopsis of Metal Gear. I was Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker and Metal Gear Solid 5 hadn't come out yet. Rising wasn't out yet. The most
Right.
recent Metal Gear game was Metal Gear Solid 4, and that had released like
Right.
2 years earlier. So,
Yeah.
uh, I look up a vague synopsis, and I'm like, oh, this is like Call of Duty. And then it's 2020, decade later, and I play Solid. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
That's so funny. I guess I was I guess I in a way wasn't too confused because by the time Brawl had come out, I had already like watched someone play most of Metal Gear Solid
Right.
1. So I was like, "Oh yeah, I know what that looks
Yeah.
like."
I think what's especially funny is that
I knew about Psycho
you know about
Mantis.
Psycho Mantis. Psycho Mantis.
Oh, I know about Psycho
Psycho
Mantis.
Mantis. Um, I think what's especially interesting is that, I played Metal Gear 2 for the first time earlier this year. And
Oh, cool. Okay.
I think that game's really cool because it's essentially just Kojima doing a Carpenter riff. Far
Yeah.
more explicitly than any of his other work. It is very
Yeah.
obviously taking from John Carpenter. Down to the soundtrack, the opening song.
Oh
It
yeah.
just sounds like something John Carpenter would record.
That's crazy. Yeah, I know. He's so into it with that one.
Yeah.
It's great.
So I played it and I was surprised by two things. How much of Metal Gear Solid 1's DNA is taken from Metal Gear 2? It is
Yeah.
in many places. The specific example that comes to mind is the staircase fight in Metal Gear 2 is
Yeah.
basically the same as the staircase fight in Metal Gear Solid 1.
Oh, that's
They're
true.
the same thing.
What's funny? Yeah, what's funny about those first two Metal Gears is that Metal Gear is like kind of
Yeah.
sucks,
And
but like Metal Gear Two is like
it's
really
really,
good.
really fucking
It's a
good.
really good game.
Um, I would go as far as to say it's one of the best, maybe the best 8-bit game there is. I would say next to like Super
That
Mario Bros. 3.
Yeah, that might be
Um,
true. Honestly, yeah, like I wouldn't even actually feel bad arguing that
yeah,
at all.
that game is really fucking good, and its story is also just ahead of its time.
Oh
Um,
yeah, like incredibly.
but what's interesting is that that game wasn't available. So you
Right.
play Metal Gear Solid 1, and there's this conflict with Gray Fox, and obviously Gray Fox and Snake have some history.
Yeah.
And you just don't know who this guy is because you haven't played Metal Gear 2.
Yeah, yeah, no, if you live in America, you have no idea who this guy is. He's banging his head on the floor, he's freaking out. You have no idea what's going on. I didn't. I had to look it up.
I only recently found out that in the original version of the game, not Twin Snakes, he's voiced by Greg Eagles,
Yeah.
who also voices Grim from the Grim Adventures of Bill and Mandy.
Oh, yes,
Also
I did know
Garshin
that.
Smith from Killer 7.
Yes.
And
Which have you played by
Killer
the way?
7? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um
Oh, oh,
I can't,
good.
go get it right now, but I have a copy for the GameCube.
Oh,
So,
very good. Okay.
what is it, like 3 years ago, uh, I just sat in front of a CRT for like a week, and I just put in Killer 7, and I sat there right in front of it, playing Killer 7, and it was an interesting experience.
Incredible
Yeah.
game. I really love Killer 7. It's insane. It's insane how like how much shit it like sort of inadvertently got right in like a weird way.
How so? What do you mean by that?
Whoa, how there's like basically like there's like the guy who's like basically a
Oh,
QAnon guy.
yeah.
Yeah, like that's crazy. That game came out in what, like
Five.
2004,
Yeah,
2005?
2005. Because it was recently the
Yeah.
game's 19th anniversary. I think the
Oh, true.
single funniest thing about Killer 7 is the fact that it was positioned as a console seller because of the Capcom 5.
Yeah, which is wild.
Because what was the Capcom 5? It was that I think the game was called Dead Phoenix. Let me check this real quick because
Dead Phoenix. I don't even know if I've heard of
yeah, it
that.
never came out.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it never came out. Uh, It was some sort of third-person shooter that was for the GameCube. So it was that game never came out, and then it was Piano 3, which is still exclusive to the GameCube. That has never gotten ported. And I think
Yeah,
that game's interesting because a lot of its DNA ended up in Bayonetta.
that's true.
Yeah. Um, it's fine from what I've played of it, but
Yeah,
it is interesting to examine as something that very clearly influenced Bayonetta. Um, then Beautiful Joe, which got ported to PS2,
and Beautiful Joe, of
and then
course.
Beautiful Joe got a
Yeah,
sequel for the DS.
and a
Yeah.
sequel.
And
It got a sequel on console too, didn't it?
I think so. You're probably right about
I
that.
think it did.
Um,
Pretty sure it
and
did.
then it was Killer 7, which got ported to PS2. The
Yeah,
PS2 port sucks.
of course. Yeah, it
Um,
does.
but I think what's really interesting about Killer 7 is that the game is designed around the GameCube controller.
Yeah,
Um, the most obvious example of this is that to move in Killer 7, you press the A button on the GameCube controller.
right.
And
Yeah,
the A button is positioned in the middle of all those other buttons.
in the
And
middle.
then I think to go back to like turn around or something, it's B, and you can just quickly tap B to
Yeah.
turn around.
Yeah, it's easy. All the controls make a lot more sense when you are playing it on a GameCube
Right.
controller. But as soon as you put it on like a DualShock, you're like, what the
Yeah, right.
fuck?
And that's something I feel is missed when the game came out on PC.
Right.
Um, by the way, with the PC port, did you ever notice that the cutscenes are just super compressed?
Yeah, yeah, because I've played the PC part. It's
It's
crazy.
it sucks because some of the animated
Yeah,
cutscenes in that game are beautiful.
they're really good looking. Yeah, and they look way
Yeah.
worse.
Um, and then the last game, of course, is Resident Evil 4, and that game has been
Of
it's like
course,
second only
that game's on
it's second
everything.
only to Doom in terms of ports.
On yeah,
Like I would not be
like
surprised
probably one of
if some
yeah, probably one of the most easy games to get a hold of and play
right.
ever.
And then it just got remade, and that's on even more consoles.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, with Killer 7, it's really funny that they tried to position that as a console seller because it is such an obtuse video
yeah.
game.
Oh,
I
extremely.
think it's also funny because you can essentially read that game as being about how George Bush is the devil.
Yeah, wait, well, I would go as far as to say that is what it's
Right.
about.
Um, and I feel like that game is explicitly about the Iraq War and the war crimes that
Yeah, it's
George Bush is committing.
I have this thing where I've been working on. It's not like a fully formed thing, but but about just kind of like the collection of just post 9/11 games that
Oh
had just
God, are
come
we gonna
out.
talk about Drakengard?
Like, I mean, well, Drakengard's one of them. It's one of them.
Right, go on. I just
It's one of them. The first Valkyria
okay.
Chronicles
I haven't played Valkyria
is
Chronicles. Isn't that the game?
so they kind of
That's the game for PS3? Yeah,
yeah, and like PSP and like
yeah.
PS3, and it's like a weird like anime like sort of World War II
Yes.
aesthetic, and they kind of lose the plot going forward. But the first game is like very clearly about like war for oil. Uh, it's like kind of actually trying to say some shit. They kind of lose that after like the
Yeah, I
second
think
game,
the
but
second game, one of the games is on Vita. I know that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, at least one of them is. But yeah, it's yeah. There's a couple games where it's like very clear that that's what they're about,
I think Drakengard
and not in the
is,
yeah.
you know, obviously, I run an account dedicated to those games. Don't want to talk about that, but I was talking about Drakengard with somebody, and I don't, it's a pretty common theme for games to have some sort of commentary on the violence you commit in them. And I really
Yeah,
don't ever feel as if they're effective because the
Mm,
point is for
yeah.
games to be, one of the a common thing with video games is, oh, the gameplay has to be fun or else people won't play it. Not true, by the way,
Right.
but
Not
um,
true.
I think two of the games that get this idea right are Shadow of the Colossus and Drakengard. Also, can
Right.
you in Shadow of the Colossus a post 9/11 game? Because no, when you kill one of the colossi, they bleed oil.
I've okay. I've heard this argument before, and I think there's maybe something to it.
Because the whole
This is not. I feel like I need to replay it to like really interrogate
yeah,
this, but because I haven't played it in a very long
right.
time. But yeah, but there very well could be something to
Because
that.
just to go through what I'm thinking real quick, the thing with Shadow of the
Uh
Colossus
huh.
is that it's a game. So the game's misleading, obviously, but
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
no spoiler. Well, spoilers, but the basic conceit of the game is that
It's been out
right,
forever.
it's a modern classic. If you have a PS4, you can go you can go play the remake, and it's pretty cheap too. I have some
Yeah.
opinions on the remake, but uh,
Yeah.
I'll get into that later. But so you're this guy Wander who goes to this forbidden land that's been sealed off, and you have the body of this girl. I think her name is Mono. I don't know if I'm correct about that. And to
I'm
to
unsure.
revive her, to bring her back to life, it doesn't tell you, why she's dead. But
Yeah. No information at
right,
all on
you
on
have
that.
to basically do what this god tells you to do.
A voice
The
from the
voice from the
sky
sky
commands you.
commands you. Yeah, exactly. And you go through the land, you kill the 16 colossi who all bleed oil. And the framing of killing the colossi is that you're murdering them. This isn't a noble or valiant act. A lot of the colossi are not hostile towards you. Um,
Yeah, at least not until you
y- you know,
start hurting them.
right. And then you get up onto their faces and they look all fucking stupid and goofy. Like that's the point of the game. It's
Yeah.
and part of the reason it's effective is because it kind of sucks to play.
Yeah.
Like playing Shadow of the Colossus, you're constantly being thrown off, and Wander just kind of jiggles all over the place. Uh, you go
Yeah,
flying. He's a
he's being
ragdoll.
flung around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like going into a sealed off land, and killing something for, I guess, vengeance, uh, and also oil. That sounds a lot like George Bush to me. Because his involvement with Iraq was for two things. It was continuing his father's war and also for
Of
oil.
course.
Um, those are the
Yeah.
two primary things, and I feel like there is merit to the reading of Shadow of the Colossus as a post 9/11 video game.
Oh, absolutely.
But I think
Yeah.
what makes Drakengard interesting is that Yoko Taro has not stopped making post 9/11 video games.
Yeah, he never quit.
Uh,
He just keeps
One
doing
thing
it.
I will say that's pretty admirable about him is that he has been, at least he's consistent with his views. I remember him talking pretty recently where he
Yeah.
acknowledged the genocide in Palestine and the
Yeah.
atrocities that were going on there. And he was one of the few big game developers to do so. This also led to me discovering that the guy who, the game Nuclear Throne, the roguelike?
I do.
So the guy who made it follows me.
Really?
Yeah, I had no idea, but also I'm pretty sure he's Muslim and has, obviously speaking out about that. But back to Yoko Taro, the guy has just not stopped making post 9/11 video games. Um,
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, yeah. Nier is also
Yeah,
one
Nier's
of
also
those.
like that. Um,
Like he just kept doing it.
he just got, one of my issues with Nier Automata is that I don't feel like it leans hard enough into the whole 9/11 thing.
Yeah, into it.
Because I
Yeah,
feel like Yorha could have been a really obvious analogy for ground troops in Iraq in the early 2000s, but they don't really,
yeah,
expand upon that. I wanna talk about Nier Automata in a later episode we'll have with special guest who will go unnamed for now. Uh,
yeah.
we'll have to
We'll have to
unpack.
get into that later.
Yeah, we'll unpack that with him whenever that occurs. But
Yeah.
the thing with Drakengard that I think is especially effective is that you have to break the game to play it effectively. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Where you just have to be super aware of
I
enemy
do.
patterns. You have to
Oh,
play it like it's a Souls game and you're the
yeah.
boss.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Um,
Yeah.
you've seen that video that's like this game came out 2 years after Devil May Cry or something like that. And it's just Kaim and he's
Oh,
juggling
yeah.
the person up and down. And it's this person very clearly exploiting the
Yeah.
engine of the game. It's so funny. Um, but
It's really funny.
yeah. Yeah. Yoko Taro never stopped making 9/11 games. What are some other ones? What are some other games in the 9/11 canon? Uh,
I'm not sure if I can think of any other ones right now. Those are kind of my ones.
Valkyria Chronicles,
Um,
Drakengard, and
no.
Killer 7. I
Yeah.
was about to say, Sleep
Yeah.
Patterns by Merchant Ships, and then I realized that's not a video game. That's a song.
Well, that's okay. Well, the thing is it doesn't entirely. It's not entirely video games. It's like post 9/11 media
Right.
was kind of like how I'd said it. So it was pretty broad.
Yeah.
It was kind of my thought. There was because there's certain albums that are that are like post 9/11
Right.
albums.
I mean, arguably,
Glassjaw's most famous album is a post 9/11 album.
which band?
Like to its core.
Which band is that?
Glassjaw.
Okay.
Worship and Tribute. Glassjaw, they're like a
I know
early
Glassjaw.
2000s like post hardcore. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
I was just, your mic cut out for a second,
Yeah,
so I was like,
yeah.
oh, what
No,
did she say? But,
oh my bad.
is My Chemical Romance, are they a post 9/11 band? Because that band formed because
Technically,
technically they are a post 9/11
technically,
band. Um, my
I don't know that
question,
they necessarily make music kind of about it,
yeah,
but
yeah, but they are explicitly associated with 9/11.
but they formed because of it.
Right.
So
Um,
yeah,
I'm of the opinion, I don't care if this is controversial. My Chemical Romance, especially compared to a lot of the early 2000s pop punk bands, they are an emo band, in my humble opinion.
right. I'll go. I'll go to bat, honest to God, for their first two albums.
Yeah,
Still,
yeah, they're good. They're solid. Did you see the
they're
edit?
good.
Uh,
They're especially everything. Oh, the
Drakengard.
Drakengard edit.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's really good.
I started this
I really
weird
like that.
trend for anyone who's not in the know where okay, rather, Sputnik from Weather Day started this weird trend where they messaged me one day and they're like, oh, Lynn, I have a special gift for you. And I'm like, oh, what is it? And I don't really have any expectations because they had sent me an actual gift before. They got me Rain World on Steam and then proceeded to call me Lint. I was like, oh, okay, Sputnik, what is it? And they're like, Haim in. And it's a photo of Haim edited into Come in. And they're like, oh, I have a template so I can edit whatever I
Oh my,
want
yeah.
into Come in. And I'm like, okay, okay, Sputnik. So I made it my Twitter profile pic for the longest time. And then I was like,
It's
okay,
so funny.
I gotta change this. It's been too long. And I asked my friend, hey, because I'd spoken to Adam Demersion Uh, and like the first thing he and I spoke about was Drakengard because he noticed that I had two copies of Drakengard on my floor at the time. A really peculiar way to meet somebody, especially somebody whose music you like a lot. But so I was like, all right. I said to my friend, I'll give you like $10 and a Dunkin' Donuts gift card. And because this is my friend that I know in person. We've hung out a few times, but I was like, all right, if
Right.
you know, would you be able to draw time on the cover of Just Got Back from Discomfort for me? And she was like, sure. And then this other person I know from Twitter, she drew Time and Angelus on the cover of Bullets. I brought you my bullets, I brought you my love. Uh, and then my other friend, Audrey, drew uh, Diary by Sunny Day Real Estate with Kaim, Mana.
Yeah, that one is
That one's
crazy.
fucking crazy. That one was like, holy shit.
That one is crazy.
Uh, Um,
Yeah.
so my question about Drakengard is, how would you feel they would have to navigate a remake of Drakengard? If it had to be remade, what would be your ideal?
If it had to be remade,
Right, in some horrible universe where they remade the game with an incest subplot.
they left it in
Right. Oh yeah,
for
they
the
cut it out for
Americans.
the American release.
God. They
Um,
cut it out in the English. It's crazy. That scene, okay, sorry to derail it, but that scene is crazy in like the English dub because she's like, "Can I have a hug?" And he turns his head away and she stabs herself. And
right.
it's like, what is happening here?
And they also cut the whole
It's so
plot
like
with
impossible to follow.
they cut the whole plot with Leonhard. So it doesn't I mean everybody who's playing Drakengard is
Yeah,
familiar with what the deal with Leonhard is at
everyone
this point.
knows.
Like it's not a secret. So
Yeah,
there's that
of
level
course.
where you're killing child
Yeah.
soldiers, and the only person who objects to it is Leonard,
Yeah.
the pedophile, and it just makes you
Yeah.
feel awful.
Yeah.
Makes your skin crawl.
Yeah.
It's ooh.
Sucks.
But if they were to remake Drakengard, how do you
I,
think they should do it?
yeah.
What would be your ideal scenario for a
How I think they
Drakengard
should do it.
remake? Besides not remaking it, which is what they should do. They should not remake that game.
They should never remake it. They should they should, if they have to remake it, they should remake it with a completely nothing budget. Uh of course.
Right. I don't think
Um
it's Drakengard without
I
having
think
zero
they
budget.
without just the lowest budget ever.
Right.
It needs to be specifically a console exclusive because I think it'd be funny. PS5 Drakengard exclusive.
I'm just
Just because that's
imagining.
funny.
I remember when Final Fantasy 16 was, like, going through the hype cycle. People compared to the
Yeah.
main character to Kain because they look kind of similar. Or a lot of jokes like, "Oh, this
Yeah.
is Drakengard." But
Like, God, you wish.
God, you wish. Yeah.
I wish. God, I wish that game was anything like Drakengard.
Um. But yeah. Uh. I really don't understand. I feel like if you're asking for a remake of Drakengard, you are missing the point.
you like you just don't get it like at all somehow.
Right, because
It's a game that it's like yeah, it feels like shit to play but like good.
the whole point is that everything in the
Like
game
it
feels
should.
like shit. It is kind of unreal how ahead of the curve they were with that. And people will say, oh, it wasn't
Yeah.
intentional. Like, read dev interviews. It was all a mess. But then you have to read that the game was originally just a fantasy Ace Combat clone, and the lead of the game got fired.
Yeah.
So, or he left or something like that. So Yoko Taro, who was a design
He
student
left or
and
fight,
had no
yeah.
experience making video games, was put in charge and he wrote, the whole story for it. And not all elements of a work have to be intentional for them to be effective thematically. Like even if it wasn't intentional for it to be
Yeah.
monotonous and for it to be play like shit, and for the enemies to just kind of stand there
Yeah.
waiting for them to kill you, uh, like that all adds to the game. And it's pretty reductive to imply that, you know, these unintentional elements don't add to the game. Like, I can't imagine
Right, of
playing a
course.
Drakengard that
Yeah.
doesn't feel
No.
like shit.
Yeah. Even 3, which plays a lot more like near is like a complete shit game as far as like the frame rate is like single digit half the time.
I
Like
see the issue I have with 3 is I would be fine if the game, had like a slow FPS to make a point, but it makes me nauseous when I play it because it is
no,
just
it's not making a point. It's not making a point. It's just bad.
it's like I see people on near Twitter that try to pull the same shit for Drakengard 3 where they're like, this game sucks. And the fact that it plays at single digit FPS sometimes it's part of the storytelling, and I'm like, I don't think it is. Like leave that
It isn't.
leave that
That's not true. I listen. I'm like, a huge Drakengard 3 fan. It's not. It's just bad. Like it's just kind of it's insane. I remember a friend of mine played it and was like, yeah, I can see like where they were going with the combat and everything. They really figured it out in Nier, and I was like, oh, I've got some bad news for you. That game came out after Nier, and he like almost didn't believe me.
the thing with did you play the Replicant remake?
A little bit.
The issue I had with it is that first off,
I
the
played
game
some of it.
looks too nice. And people will give me shit for this,
Yeah,
but like the game looks too nice. The characters don't look like they're dying and haven't showered in a week. And
yeah,
it's too fun to play. Like there's a huge discrepancy between
yeah,
like the actual themes of the game and just being able to do like insane
yeah,
combos. And with the original Nier, it's similar
yeah.
to Drakengard, where you just have to break the game to play it effectively.
Right.
And it's like,
It's yeah. A lot of that got lost
right.
in the remake.
Um, and like it's for me, it's less about the whole. Personally, I'm Team Dad Nier. I think what's interesting is that just changing the protagonist's
Yeah,
age affects the story quite a lot. Because you can get the sense that, oh,
yeah.
Bronier's
It's
fairly
weird.
naive. Uh, but Dadnir is totally
Yeah,
aware of what he's doing. He is aware of the harm
yeah,
that he's causing. And, that's a pretty important change. Uh, but
yeah.
I think
The
it's
the time skip feels more meaningful with the brother, but the
right,
themes of the game work so much more with the adult.
right. But I think either way, they're
Yeah.
interesting games with either
Mm-hmm.
protagonist. But for me, it's less about the
Yeah.
protagonist and it's more about just the aesthetic of the
Yeah.
original and how it handles its combat in relation to
Yeah.
those themes. And I don't know, it falls short for me. Uh, Sip of water.
Yeah. What a crazy game for me to play when it like came out.
Yeah.
And I played that game like when it came out, and like so I really had no idea what I was getting into with that at all. I was just like, oh no, cool RPG to play.
Did you know about
And
Drakengard?
it's like at a certain I knew it. I Okay. So here's the thing. Okay, so my introduction to Drakengard is really funny, actually. When I was young, we rented it from like Hollywood Video. I tried to play a little bit of it. Was like, this sucks. This is horrible. Took it back. Never really thought about it again, other than like, oh, that was that game that like sucked when I was like a kid. Didn't know anything about it. Got near. Didn't know it was connected. Beat near. Looked into it. Found out the connection. Started like reading about Drakengard, and then eventually played it and was like, wait, holy shit.
They were onto something here. Mine is kind of
They were onto something. No, it's yeah. No, go on.
mine's kind of funny because I was introduced to Nier through a shitpost account I was friends with. I mean, we're still friends. I just don't talk to them as much anymore. And they're like, I think from what I remember, they're Austrian. They're this woman from Austria whose parents like played a bunch of weird video games. Like this is somebody who played Rule of Rose as a kid.
Really?
Yeah. And they post
Oh,
about
crazy.
like Chloe Sevigny and like all that other type of stuff. Um
Oh, wow.
yeah, and so they were like, "Oh, you should play Nier Automata." And I was like, "Okay." So I played Nier Automata and I really loved it. And then the Replicant remake was about to come out in like a month or two. So I played through all of Drakengard on an emulator. And I was like, "The fuck is this?"
Yep.
And then I played Replicant and I really liked it. And then like a year later I went back and I played the Near Gestalt, and I was like, this is a lot better. Like the game resonated with me
Mm-hmm.
on
Yeah.
much more because I think it's, done
Yeah.
better. But I think it's really funny that there are a bunch of people who played Drakengard as a kid and
Mm-hmm.
they know nothing about Nier. It's just like, oh, it's just this fantasy game I
And
played as
just
a
didn't
kid.
get it.
It's like,
Yeah.
no, not didn't get it. Like they had fun playing Drakengard. Like there is a
Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, that's really crazy.
I saw a video of somebody talking about, Nier. They got into the series later on. And they're like, I played Drakengard as a kid. That's Kime. That's Kime from Drakengard. I was just like, what the fuck is this? Um, I was explaining to my
That's
buddy,
crazy.
Ellie from Swiss Army Wife, and I was like, yeah, so there's this game called Drakengard, and it's like the worst piece of shit imaginable, and I love it. She's like, how? And I like went into some depth, and she's like,
It's
how is this
yeah.
real? And that's like the general reaction I get about Drakengard from people
How
who,
is it real?
how is it real?
Yeah.
How did they get away with any of
I've
that?
played it and I'm asking how it's real.
Like,
There's some genuinely like just insane moments of that game. It's really
I
it's really unlike anything else.
right. I think it has its like kind of spiritual successors in
Yeah,
games like Pathologic. I mean, you could argue Fear and
for
Hunger
sure.
is kind of a spiritual successor to Drakengard. But are we just gonna call games that
Right.
feel like shit to play but are good? Are we gonna call them Drakengard-likes?
I would start going insane if I did that. I think.
Like,
I
oh,
don't think I don't know if I can commit to that.
all right. I'm committing to that bit. I'm calling these games Drakengard likes.
You know what?
I have a bunch of
All
friends
right,
who
that's
really
it. We're doing
like
it.
Fear and Hunger, and I'm just gonna be like, oh, Fear and Hunger, that Drakengard like? They're like, what the fuck are you talking
Oh my
about?
god. Yeah. All right. Yeah, we're doing it. We're doing it.
Yeah, we're calling this
That's it.
Drakengard likes at this point.
We're doing this now.
Um, I'm trying to think of some other
God,
games that are like that. The PS2 is such a funny console. Because it's like
it really is.
I think a lot about you have my friend Kelly from Dutch Masters. Shout out Dutch Masters, really cool Screw Metronica project from wonderful upstate New York. Uh, Go check out her album she released earlier this year, Substation My Home, Substation My Melancholy. I think that's the name. But super great. Anyways, sh her experience growing up with the PS2 was like Tony Hawk Pro Skater, that sort of thing. And then I got a PS2 when I was in high
Right.
school, and I played like Shadow of the
Uh,
Colossus and God Hand.
mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
just because of how wide the array of games was on that console, people have radically different childhood experiences. Like, if you're playing the Wii,
Oh yeah.
or any Nintendo console for that matter, you are generally having the same experiences. Same with Xbox, honestly. But PlayStation 2 specifically,
Yeah.
everybody is having a different experience.
It's crazy.
Um, like, I imagine there's some kid who grew up on like Raw Danger or something. And
Oh yeah.
that's just really funny to imagine. Uh, uh,
That's crazy. Yeah, I imagine playing that as a kid. That's wild.
or trying to think of some other examples, but I feel like I would have become a better person if I played like Katamari as a kid.
Oh yeah.
Um, but
I played so much shit just because I had like older cousins that were into like weird RPGs and shit.
yeah, yeah, it's like the PS2 just has such a wide array of games, and you could really have grown up on anything. Uh, like if you
Yeah.
ask
Like my
people what their
I had older
favorite,
cousins that were like, "Here's dot hack."
I can't imagine being shown Dot Hack as like Baby Gwen, like Goo Goo
Yeah.
Gaga. Here's Dot Hack.
In like 6th grade
Oh my God. In sixth grade, I was a
or some
Nintendo
shit.
kid up until high school. Uh,
Yeah.
so my parents only ever got me Nintendo consoles. So it was like Mario and I like Zelda. And I was like, but I also liked my favorite
Hmm.
Nintendo series were the less appreciated ones. I loved Metroid and I loved Mother. Um,
Oh
I
yeah.
think playing Earthbound when I was in sixth grade did things to my brain. Uh, the whole reason I got into music, the whole reason that I am sitting here right now is because I played Earthbound when I was in sixth grade. I'll tell you about that
That's
another time.
crazy.
But yeah, but Nintendo consoles, people generally have the same experiences. And with PlayStation, it's just like,
That's true.
if you ask somebody what their favorite PlayStation games are, you're always going to get a different answer. Is that like the first console
That's
where
true. Some
people
someone it's gonna be. Yeah.
would go like, my favorite game's Madden. Did you see that video
Yeah.
where this guy was asking like a bunch of uh football players about what their favorite games were, and they're all like, "Oh, Madden, GTA,
Yeah.
2K15," and this one guy just goes Persona, and then it just edits like Persona 5 stuff on it. That is really funny. But I don't know. What are your favorite PS2 games, just off the top of your head?
Oh, that's crazy. I mean, it's easy to say Silent Hill 3, of course,
Yeah. Um.
but I like a lot. I like Odin Sphere. I'm talking because I've been replaying it, so that one's fresh on my mind. But I did play that game when I was a kid, and it got me like really in. I got really into it. There's a lot of good PS2 games.
Wait a second. Odin
There's
Sphere.
one of the most insane games.
Odin Sphere is
Yeah,
done by Atlas. I'm wondering because
it's published by Atlas.
it's
Yeah,
published by Atlas. Okay. I'm wondering, just solely
yeah.
based on the art style, if a lot of the team for the game ended up. I'm wondering if anyone from the team of Odin Sphere ended up on Radiant Historia. Let me. Okay.
I don't know actually. It's the company's Vanillaware and they're very small.
Vanillaware, they did beginning with Odin Sphere. Let me see. Did they do Let me see. They did not do Radiant Historia, but they did do Unicorn Overlord,
Yeah,
which, released recently.
they did. I have not played that
I
yet, and I
haven't
need
played
to.
that either.
Um,
They did Miramasa the Demon Blade. Oh, that game's cool.
yes, that was the Odin Sphere spiritual sequel,
Okay. Let me.
which is also kind of the third game spiritually in the series since Princess Crown, but we never got that one. That
Yeah,
was the
Radiant
first one.
Historia
They're actually the history.
Radiant Historia
Who did
was
that game?
Headlock, and it was Headlock and Atlas.
Headlog.
Yeah, and Headlock don't even have a
Huh.
Wikipedia page. So,
Oh, that's crazy.
yeah. Uh,
Huh. No, Vanillaware's little history is very funny. Because he basically he made Princess Crown, like the guy who founded Vanillaware. Vanillaware wasn't a thing yet. He made Princess Crown with Atlas. It came out. It never got only in Japan. Critically acclaimed. Everybody that played it loved it. It sold like 4 copies, and they got really pissed and basically blacklisted him from the industry for like 10 years. But in that time, he was getting together this group of people uh, to start a little company, and that's Vanillaware, and so actually 10 so Odin Sphere came out literally 10 years after Princess Crown, and it's very much like the same game in a way. It's the same. It's
okay,
very much like
Princess
a
Crown
spiritual
was
sequel
a
to it.
Saturn game, which
Um,
explains why I haven't. I know
yeah,
nothing
it was on
about
the
it.
Saturn.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
nobody's ever owned a Sega
I've never played
Saturn.
it. No one's no one's owned a Saturn, and it was only in Japan.
Right.
Yeah,
That's a
and
recipe
and
for
so
disaster.
they put that out. Yeah, and so I think it's very funny that Atlas is the publisher for Odin Sphere when I'm pretty sure when it was Atlas that blacklisted him in the first place. But it's insane how small that studio is, especially at a certain time. Muramasa was made by a team of 16 people,
Oh fuck.
which is
It's
insane because it's
also a
all
Wii
hand
game.
drawn.
We get the
It's
Wii.
also a Wii game. Yeah, apparently they wanted to make it on the Wii because it was easier for them to develop for.
Makes sense.
That's
Uh,
what I had read.
I know the
Yeah, that
PS3
game's
is
cool
kind of
though.
infamous for being difficult to develop for, and it's why a lot of games weren't ported.
Yeah,
Um,
it's the N64 of that generation.
right. Uh, N64
Yeah,
emulation is still a fucking disaster. Uh,
yeah, it's because that console was a disaster.
right. Um,
Yeah,
there's
thing
a
was held together with duct tape.
there's a really funny guy on Twitter, and his whole bit is that he really likes Quest 64.
Oh, I follow him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he rocks. Um, but
yeah,
and it was like Quest 64 day the other day. Um, and it's kind of
yeah,
making me want to check out Quest 64, which I guess is what he's trying to do. But
yeah. Eventually, I need to play it. I feel like I have to.
I feel like following that account, I have to. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
I don't even I, ca- I don't even think I can name a game for the Saturn besides Nights into Dreams. Oh, also Panzer Dragoon.
Um.
That those games are on
Oh,
this.
Panzer Dragoon, of course.
Yeah. Um,
If I pulled up the games I have on my emulator, I could tell you, but I'm not doing that.
yeah. I have this. Have I ever told you about my friend Evan who goes to game school? He's like, he hasn't really played many video games and he really likes Sonic.
No, I don't think you have.
So I have this friend named Evan. Nothing but love to Evan, by the way. Dude's rock. But I went to high school with him. And he's part of like my just friend group from high school. And he's the one person who went into the game industries in college for I think game management or something like that. So
Hmm.
The thing is that he hasn't played many video games. I've played far more, video games than this guy has. And he just likes buying weird consoles. So he owns a Virtual Boy and he's thinking about buying a Saturn. And I'm like, why would you do this? What's going on in your
That's
head, Evan?
crazy.
Like, out of any of the consoles you could buy, you buy a Virtual Boy, and then I play it and I get nauseous from it. I'm pretty sure I threw up after I played the Virtual Boy. Uh, but
Oh my god.
yeah, um, and I think he was talking about getting a Sega Saturn. I'm like, why would you do that? Um, I'm
Wait, is Popful Mail on the Saturn?
Jack.
That's my question. Let's find out. Because that kind
Thoughtful
of changes
Mail.
everything if that's true.
I think that's on the Sega CD.
Ah, shit. Okay. Well, it's not worth it.
Wait a second. Popful Mail was supposed to be. They were trying to rework it into a Sonic game?
Wait, really?
Yeah, I just checked the Wikipedia article for it.
I
And it says after the
actually
failed
didn't
attempt
know
to
that.
bring the game to the West by reworking it to be the part of uh, Sonic the Hedgehog series. That's a very poorly worded sentence, but what the fuck? Okay,
That's so insane.
that's really funny. Um, but
Games are silly.
games are very funny. Um, fuck. I always think about how
That's crazy.
the game sort of Berserk for the Dreamcast.
No, of course.
I always think about how that was the first introduction anyone had to Berserk in the United States because the manga hadn't been translated yet. And it also led to this really funny ad with Laura Croft and Guts, and they're like, uh, Laura and Guts wouldn't play with you, they'd play with each other.
That's so funny.
Um, and it's really funny to imagine anyone like their first experience with something as fucked as Berserk as that game. Because like a lot of Dreamcast games, it's essentially an arcade game. Um,
Yeah.
and I think what
Yeah.
makes that game notable in the Berserk canon is the fact that Casca speaks in it after having been in, a coma for however long in
Hmm.
the manga after the eclipse. But that
Right.
the significance of that wouldn't register to anyone playing it because nobody knows what a
Yeah.
berserk is. It's
That's
also really funny how they don't localize Guts'
that's
name and they
so
just
funny.
call him Gatsu for all of it.
That has always been so funny to me
Right.
because it's like it's already it's just guts.
Right. Um,
It's always I always find people very silly that say it that way.
yeah. But do you, we're at an hour and 11 minutes. Do you want to wrap this up?
Oh jeez, yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
So,
we've been going for a while.
uh, one thing I'd like to do before we end our first episode
Okay.
is I'd like to say thank you for listening, obviously, but uh do you have any recommendations for what people should check out? Could be anything, could be music, game, movie, whatever.
Um, that's a good question. Uh, I'm gonna say, you know what? I'm gonna say, go check out the Marrier.
Yeah, yeah. Jake's doing our Jake from the
Yeah,
Marrier. He's like how would you describe it? I would describe him as Dreamo. I think that's how he,
yeah.
self-labels his music.
That sounds pretty accurate. Yeah.
Yeah. Jake's my friend. I play Fortnite with him sometimes. And he's doing the intro and outro music for this podcast. He just released an album called
Yes, I did hear
I
it.
you should hear that the outro soon. But he released an album this year called I Hope My Cats Are With Me When the Flood Comes. And it's really great. He has a song called I Lost My Twitter, which is true. He did lose his Twitter, and he lost a bunch of Master Chief fan fiction, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and it's great.
One of the
Listen to
first
it.
like
There's a lot
real
of people on it.
discussions I had with Jake was about Star Wars. And I think we'll have him on at some point just to talk about Star Wars because I think it'll be funny. Um,
That will be funny.
but yeah, my recommendation is also check out The Marrier. His music's on streaming. It's really great. He's collabed with a bunch of great artists like Palette Knife, Exciting Excellent. I think he did some short stuff with short fictions too. I don't know if it's like labeled on Spotify, but yeah, that's also my
Huh.
recommendation. Uh, so yeah, do you have anything you'd like to say?
I don't think so.
All right,
I think
think
that's a wrap.
yeah, I think that's a wrap. Thank you so much to anyone listening. I hope you enjoy and listen to future episodes where we'll have, I guess, some cool people come on. Next week we're gonna have, I think we're gonna have a really cool special guest come on. So yeah, hope you enjoy it. If you like this podcast, I guess leave it a like. Tell your friends about it. Yeah, and that's it. Bye.